Do you oh, Brass, welcome, buddy, good to see you. Do you believe deists and Christians worship the same God? Yeah, I do. Um, because there's only one God, and I think that we're aiming in the same direction. But the the fact that I say that means that one of us is wrong, right? Either the Christians are wrong about some things or I'm wrong about some things. One nice thing about being deist, though, is that my beliefs are a lot less specific than theirs. So if the Christians are right about everything, then their beliefs are very specific, but they're still within my beliefs. So I'm actually not wrong. I'm just less right, if that makes sense. Whereas if I'm right and the Christians are wrong, they have some very specific beliefs that are wrong. But I do think I do think so. I think that we're pointing in the same direction, but we disagree about the specifics. That's at least how I would view it. I don't know about you, Brass. Doesn't natural law go back to Aristotle and pagans in general? Um, Brass, it depends on what you think about when you say natural law. Like you could trace like deontology back to Aristotle, and you could some of these ideas have a long historical lineage. But when in the American context, there was this interesting moment where you had skepticism being introduced by Hume and eventually picked up by Kant on the metaphysical side, though he was a deontologist morally, but metaphysically he was a skeptic. And then you had this school of Scottish common sense realism, which rejected skepticism and said that natural law was directly perceivable by humans. So they built on those ideas. So I think that yes, there's an idea there, but the uniquely American part is that they didn't they did that school of thought doesn't seek to justify them. They don't say, "Oh, we can prove natural law exists and rationality is how we're going to do it." They say, "No, no, no. The moral law is written on our hearts by our Creator, and we just perceive it. It's there." Just like I know I have free will, just like I know that I breathe, just that I know I'm perceiving the real world. These are fundamental facts that about reality, and I don't need to doubt them. I accept them axiomatically. Now that's easier in a religious framework, but that's what Scottish common sense realism was about, and that is a uniquely American thing because we were, it influenced our founders and it influenced our country, and then it kind of disappeared. It's not like there are some champions for it now in the academy, but it's not a commonly talked about philosophy these days, which is very interesting. We hold to mathematical truths on non-empirical grounds. Many are axiomatic. I think that's right. I'm struggling to think of an example, but I think that's right. And this is why, like a lot of there's a great guy on X called Deontological Realist. He's no longer on X because he hates Musk and won't post here anymore. But he made all these great posts about abstract objects, and he would argue that mathematical truths are always true because there are abstract forms to which they correspond. It's a beautiful argument. I love talking about it. Baron, what up? Do you think that responsibilities and rights can be in conflict? Like if you sign a contract saying you won't reveal a secret recipe? Yeah, I mean, rights and responsibilities conflict all the time. There's often tension. One of the ones that's most commonly in tension is if I value liberty, I should want people to have more of it. But if I give liberty to immoral people, they're going to do immoral bad things. So I might need to structure more control and have less liberty so that people are still free to pursue happiness or live their lives. Because if you give immoral people total liberty, they might start killing other people. So there is tension between these values, and you have to resolve them as best you can and try to maximize the how I don't think you can ever get away with no infringement of natural rights. I think what you were trying to do is infringe them as little as possible. But someone like Scott, Fabian Liberty, thinks that you can actually get to zero infringement. And that's a big philosophical difference between the two of us, which is why he's an anarcho-objectivist and I'm not. We just fundamentally disagree on whether that's possible. Dude, for sure. For sure, Baron. Yeah, let's do it. The nice thing now, Baron, is that I'm building a public platform. So if you want to chat, let's do it. Just hit me up. We'll set up a chat. I think that they're like one of the real perks and the reason I'm doing this and spending my time on this is so that we can have these kind of cool conversations publicly. Why do you think so many presidents and politicians in general and lawyers? If you want to govern, it helps if you know how government works. If you want to function within the law, it's helpful to know what the law does. If you want to know how to pull the levers, you got to be a lawyer. One of the things I was saying before, Brass, which is really funny, is that I kind of accidentally, I was not intending to do this, but I accidentally exposed myself to like a very founding fathers-ish type of educational program where I realized that I had philosophical problems with the modern left in law school. And I started reading the Federalist Papers, studying law, studying Constitution, revisiting my background in philosophy and kind of building up my understanding. And I think that's our tradition. Like if you look at who our founders were, they were mostly moral philosophers and lawyers, and the occasional person like George Washington, who was just a really, really good dude. When people say our Constitution is pro-slavery, they forget it was Federalist, which inherently leads possibly to states. Yeah, they forget that, Brass. They forget that the first draft of the Declaration of Independence decried slavery, but there was not agreement. Like some states wanted it, some states didn't. Some people did, some people didn't. And this was at a time period where it wasn't even yet understood that all of humanity was the same species. Most people thought the races were different species back then. It was a very different time, and people just believe fundamentally different things. But if you go back and you read the Lincoln Douglas debates, what did they invoke? What did Lincoln invoke when he's arguing against slavery? He invoked natural law because natural law is incompatible with slavery, and it's this belief that led to abolition. So, I think we're on the right side of history. Yes, natural rights are totally different. Natural rights are moral obligations. They are a moral claim. Civil rights are legal claims, right? It's laws, it's rights you have within a legal system. So like your constitutional rights are not, they relate to natural law because our Constitution was built on an understanding of natural law, but you can't like enforce natural law in court. It's a philosophical position, not a legal position. Stuff. There's also a huge difference between knowing that something is wrong and having a solution for stopping it. Yeah, no, I mean, of course. Like a lot of founders wanted to get rid of slavery, they just had no way of doing it. Right? They didn't have the political will, they didn't have a solution, and it turned out it required a civil war. So if you were trying to start a nation, civil war is non-option. You can't have a civil war when you start. That's not possible. So yeah, I mean, it's a it is very possible to have a problem and no support. I've said that Democrats would not necessarily have to nominate a social conservative for me to support them if they nominated Federalists, even if they were not. That yes, of course. If we reached a point where the left was nominating a Federalist and the right was nominating a Federalist, and you were saying, oh, which one of these is better on policy? Who has a better moral character? Who do I trust to guide the country? Yeah, that's totally different. But if the left is nominating an expansive federal bureaucrat, well, fuck. Like I can't play that game. But yeah, I would love to get to a point where, remember in like the 90s, people would say like the parties weren't really different. It was the puppet on the left versus the puppet on the right. I want to get back to that. I want to get back to the time when the parties were actually fairly similar. Right now, they're not. And I think that the way to get back there is to reassert kind of these American. Yes, I think Romney did have the blueprint for it, but state versus federal is very different. It's very different, and I don't think implementing it at the federal scale was as effective. My series on Charles Hodge and horseback juggles and how Americans, particularly Christians, viewed races during the Civil War era. Oh, that's awesome. I've been told that people can't link in my chat because I haven't given them mod privileges. My bad. I will learn how to give mod privileges, and once I do, then people will have that privileges. But Brass, if you want to throw that up on X and at me, maybe people will can find your series and we can talk about it sometime. So but yeah, Brass has a YouTube channel. Go follow Brass and see what he does. It is said university is indoctrinating the lessons because liberals going to stay going in, stay liberal, going and stay conservative on average. I would love to see some data on that. I pretty much, I think I disagree, but I would love to see it. Yes, yeah, very much so. I'm not sure I fully understand that point, Brass, but we should talk.